Hi, I am Jaclyn Steele, and welcome to Self-Discovery. Howard Thurman so beautifully wrote, "Don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive and go do it. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive." Coming alive. That, my friends, is what self-discovery is all about.
Wear that mask for.
Hello, and welcome to today's episode of Self-Discovery. I feel like I'm whispering. I got a brand new podcast microphone, and y'all, it is the you-know-what. It is like Joe Rogan quality microphone, but I don't exactly know how to use it yet. So if the sound is a little weird today, just bear with me. Anyway, this is Self-Discovery. I am Jaclyn Steele. I have decided I'm putting a stake in the ground. Next month is when we will transition from Self-Discovery with Jaclyn Steele to Self-Worth with Jaclyn Steele. I'll give you an exact date as soon as I know it. But as many of you know, I had a baby several months ago, and life has been, oh guys, it has been so beautiful, like so beautiful I could cry, but it's also been so busy that I feel like I'm just now kind of resurfacing for air, if that makes sense. This month, the month of May, which we are almost halfway over, or are we halfway over? My gosh. Yeah, we are. Because it's Monday, May 16th as I'm recording this. Time is flying by. The theme of this month is personal power. And because I feel like I'm just surfacing for air right now, after the last 3 months of adjusting to having a baby and being a mom and so many amazing but also big life changes, I don't feel like I'm totally in my personal power. I feel like I am on many days very powerful and acting like it, but I would be lying to you if I sat in front of you and said, hey, I'm totally in my power right now, because I'm not. And when I laid out what I wanted each theme of every month this year in 2022 to be, I made personal power May's theme. And I thought at the time, hey, I'll have 4 months to create this content. It's going to be awesome. And life happened, and here I am. And so as I go through today's content, and just to be totally transparent, I've already recorded this episode like 3 times, but it just hasn't felt aligned with what I really wanted to say. And sometimes when that happens, we just have to keep returning to the mat and trying again and not giving up. So in no way is this episode going to be perfect, but I'm hoping that the message that comes forward is the message that I really want to share in my heart, which is about getting grounded. And I'm calling this episode Get Grounded in Your Personal Power, because power is grounding. Grounding is power. They go hand in hand. Last week, I was having lunch with a dear friend. It was her birthday lunch, my friend Stephanie. And she was asking me, we're having a very deep spiritual conversation, and she was asking me, how do you get grounded? And I started listening to things that in general I do to get grounded. I mean, I wrote a whole ebook basically on how to get grounded, which you can get on my website, and we can put a link in it in the show notes. But as I was telling her what I do in general to get grounded, I realized, hey, since I had the baby, I'm not doing all of these things that make me feel like me. I'm doing some of it here and there. You know, I'm trying to get a meditation in the morning, but sometimes he wakes up and he's crying and I have to adjust, right? And that's what being a new mom is. But at the same time, just creating awareness around what's happening in my life right now is extremely powerful. So then I can be armed to make different decisions, right? And so the first thing that I want to talk about goes hand in hand with what I just said, which is ownership. It's taking ownership, right? We're never going to be perfect. We don't need to hold ourselves to a standard of perfection. I'm a recovering perfectionist. So for all of you perfectionists out there, I get it. I so get it on a deep level. But we're never going to be perfect. But we can be grounded and we can make better decisions and we can do better tomorrow and the next day. And so talking about getting grounded and being in my power feels really good right now because I'm trying to make that shift simultaneously as I'm talking about it. Like I said, the first thing I want to talk about is ownership. Ownership over where we are in our lives, the people that are in our lives, the decisions we're making, all of it, all of it, all of it. And it's no coincidence. I felt led this morning to go into my little library, which is my office. I have all of these bookshelves full of books, and to pull a book that somebody gave to me about a year ago that I have not read yet, but I felt called to it today. And the reason I felt called to it is because the contents of what I'm about to read you are really important. So I'm going to read you a couple of pages from a book called The Calling, 3 Fundamental Shifts to Stay True, Get Paid, and Do Good by Rha Goddess. She's the founder and CEO of Move the Crowd. And what she's talking about in this chapter is recognizing our creative strengths. And I'm going to give you just a little background so that I don't have to read you absolutely everything in the chapter. But she is speaking at a conference called Reveal, and she gets off stage, and this woman named Christine comes up to her, and she's about to burst. Her chest is heaving, her eyes are watering, her upper lip is quivering, and she says to Rha Goddess, "I'm done with playing small." And then Rha Goddess now goes into what she has to say about it. And she says, "That's my kind of confession. In fact, these words are liquid gold to a coach like me because all we ever want to do is help people see how magnificent they are, so they can confront all the areas in their lives where they settle for less than they deserve." Oh, guys, can you relate to this? Do you settle for less than you deserve? I know I do at times. The catch, however, is that until someone gets fed up, I mean really fed up with whatever is not working, be it their job, relationship, money, family, health, or friendships, nothing will ever change. So, Ms. Christine was right on time. And Rha Goddess goes on to say, if you're lukewarm about making changes to improve certain areas of your life, don't even bother asking for help. Without the right mindset, you won't take the necessary actions to alleviate your suffering. Pain, as much as we don't like it, is comfortable. We get used to it. It's our pain, which somehow makes it more bearable. But that kind of pain won't get you anywhere. You've got to get to a point where the pain of not challenging yourself feels worse than the pain of hiding out. In other words, you must hit your version of rock bottom before you're ready to move. Christine's pain was so visceral, I could practically feel it coming off of her in waves. She was literally shaking as she went on to list why she felt she must change in her life for it to improve. What she felt she must change in her life for it to improve. And this included her deadbeat boyfriend, overbearing mother, MIA business partner, and psycho client, to put it gently. I'm going to pause right here for a second and say this. Hitting rock bottom and having a pain point where the pain of not changing is actually worse than the pain of changing. And I want to say I'm here right now. I feel like as far as my professional work goes, I have limited myself so much in what I can make as far as money goes. And I'm at a point right now where I'm out of my power and that I have not been charging what I'm worth. Have I had moments of doing that? Absolutely. But have I done it consistently? No. And so I'm at a point right now where I'm so sick of doing the same thing that I've done for the last 5 years that I'm transitioning and hopefully energetically, physically, in every area, opening up a new way to do my business. I just wanted to interject that so that you guys know, again, I'm right here with you. I have not figured all of this out. So Rha Goddess goes on to say, no matter how smart, rich, or accomplished you are, it's frustrating when your life doesn't look the way you had hoped it would. Or even worse, when it doesn't turn out as you'd hoped, but you're still not happy for some nebulous reason. Like Christine, you may feel like a victim, caught in an endless cycle of anger, fear, doubt, and frustration. And since you feel like a victim, you unwittingly create the same disappointing outcomes over and over by feeding the emotions that put those behaviors in place. Before you know it, you're tangled up in a never-ending swirl of undesirable circumstances, causing you to feel trapped and out of control. Again, can any of you relate? What Christine didn't realize at the time was that she'd been co-creating her misery. And here's the kicker. I love this part, guys. The only way out of her cycle would be to see that the common denominator in all her problems was, well, her. That's no easy task. Before this gutsy young woman could even be capable of creating the positive change she craved, she had to first see that she helped create the drama in her life. Now, I knew that if I told her this, one of a few things would happen. She could argue me down with a "you don't understand," or she could say, I know, and just keep talking. She might also use this golden opportunity to beat herself up and convince me that she's a hot mess. Trust me, I've seen it all. However, none of these moves would help Christine make the changes she needed to make, because even if she theoretically understood the hand she had in her reality, not much would change until she actually owned the idea that she was creative. Meaning, she had to recognize her ability to co-create her reality and then choose to either use her creative powers for good or stay stuck in that same frustrating loop. This is actually your first step towards staying true, choosing to tune out all the noise in your head so that you can tune into a message that's different from your usual chatter. You see, until now, Christine had been exposed to the same not my fault or all my fault narrative that permeates our culture and allows most of us to either push blame onto others or flog ourselves senseless when things don't go our way. Yet neither holds any real power or promise of change, which is what Christine and you are after. And same for me, friends. So before life could transform for Christine, she had to embrace her power and understand on a deep level that her reality would only be different if she was willing to envision it differently. This is the cool part. Then she had to consciously do the work to turn her vision into a new reality. That required taking her blinders off and getting to the truth about why she sought me out in the first place. In order to stay true, you've got to get true first. The first thing I did was hug Christine because I wanted her to know that I truly cared about what she'd been through before pummeling her with advice. I hear you and I feel you, I said. And then I asked a question. So if you had your way, how would you resolve these issues? I love this question, guys. Christine paused, speechless, as if no one had ever asked her this question before. I watched her body language shift, and she went from looking battered to emanating defiance. My boyfriend would respect me. He'd keep his promises or tell me when he couldn't, so I wouldn't rely on him when he can't do something. My mother would back off and stop trying to run my life by scrutinizing every little thing I do. My business partner would answer emails and texts within 24 hours, and she'd tell me that what she was going to do to fix a problem instead of leaving it all up to me. This is a great start, I interjected, but all of it requires others to act differently first. What about you? Independent of any of them, what are you willing to create for yourself? Christine began to chew on her bottom lip, a clear indication that my girl was digging deep. I'm willing to have a boyfriend that respects me and keeps his word, she said. I'm willing to tell my mother that although I know she loves me, she has to give me room to make mistakes and stop projecting her fears onto me, and that may mean we don't talk as often. I'm willing to let my business partner know that our relationship, as it is, isn't working for me. I need to know what she's willing to bring to the table or talk about parting ways. Oh, and I just need to fire my client. I mean, enough is enough. Do you see what happened there? And notice how fast it arrived? Once Christine realized what she was willing to have versus what she'd settle for, she could envision it clear as day. I want to say that one more time, guys. Once Christine realized what she was willing to have versus what she'd settle for, she could envision it clear as day. Now she had to consider how she might go about creating it. Awesome, I said. That's your homework. Have those conversations in honor of what you want to create. I gave Christine my card and asked her to email me in 2 weeks with a rundown of how her plans went. True to her word, her deadbeat boyfriend and MIA partner were gone and her client was fired. Mom, however, was a work in progress. Even so, Christine was so much happier. If you're looking to turn things around and get true, in other words, get into your power, which is the first step in the journey to true paid good, like our friend Christine, I've got 3 words for you. You are creative. No matter who you are or where you're from, you have the ability to co-create with anything occurring in your life. And you have the ability to heal and transform anything that is not working for you. This is not just my opinion. It's a universal law that's been operating from the onset of human awareness. This creative principle is woven throughout many Eastern spiritual teachings, like those from Buddha, who said, all that we are is the result of all that we have thought. And in various Bible verses like Mark 11:24 and in the book of Matthew, ask and it is given to you. Seek and ye shall find. Knock and the door shall be opened unto you. You have the capacity to create your reality through what you think, believe, and act on. This, in conjunction with a higher power, which I'll get into next, is what puts you on the path to getting true. This is all amazing news because it means you have an enormous say in what goes down on your watch. Not from a place of externally focused drama and manipulation, but by altering your internal beliefs and intentions. That's personal power, my friends. That's pretty cool, huh? By asking that question, what are you willing to have in your life? And getting really honest about the answers, you can create a game plan for yourself to get back into a place of power.
This episode is supported by RYZE Superfood Mushroom Coffee. Loaded with adaptogenic mushrooms, RYZE Coffee Blend delivers calmer energy, sharper focus, and immune support for a balanced body and clear mind. The taste is smooth, creamy, and earthy, all with less than half the caffeine of normal coffee, so you don't get the jitters or that inevitable post-caffeine high crash. It has cordyceps for stamina and increased oxygenation, lion's mane for focus, concentration, and neuron growth, reishi for stress and restful sleep, turkey tail for gut health, chronic fatigue, and cancer-fighting properties, shiitake for immunity and bone density, king trumpet for inflammation, antioxidants, and heart attack and stroke-fighting properties. Yes, yes, yes. I have been drinking this coffee personally now for months. I mix it into my regular coffee for a superfood boost, and then I add my collagen powder and a little creamer, or I drink it on its own for a little bit of extra energy when I need it. This is what I call a conscious company and one that genuinely cares about its customers. Head on over to RYZESuperfoods.com. That's spelled RYZE SUPERFOODS.com to grab a bag now and enter code Jaclyn, Jaclyn, at checkout for 15% off. Today's episode is powered by INBLOOM. This is one of my favorite supplement companies, and they offer a holistic approach to nutrition centered on physical health, mental clarity, and beauty from the inside out. They have nutrition from nature, so it's plant-based, vegan, gluten-free, no synthetic ingredients, non-GMO, sugar-free. Are you with me? They have essential vitamins, enhancing nutrients, multiplex blends, and most of their supplements are powders. Why? Because powders are more bioavailable, which means they enter your blood flow and digestive systems more efficiently. They are more readily available for your body to accept and digest, and they're easy to use. They can be shaken or whisked into a liquid or blended into wellness recipes and smoothies. And the website To Be in Bloom has many recipes. Highly recommend checking that out. Also, their ingredients are sustainably sourced. Their packaging is earth-friendly, including omni-degradable. They're reusable, and they have recycled options, which is so cool. I literally have every single supplement that they have on their website, but one of the supplements that I go to regularly is their plant protein and anti-stress herbal blend. I drink this almost every day. As a new mom, cooking lunch is just not really an option for me right now. So making a protein shake, knowing I have something healthy and something super quick, is just totally what I'm into. And their protein is delicious. It satisfies your hunger, it improves your glucose levels, and it feeds your body what it craves and helps combat the negative impacts of stress. It's got a green protein blend, reishi mushroom, elderberry, cinnamon bark, ginger, dandelion root, cocoa. I'm telling you, this protein is so delicious. I mix it with almond milk and then call it a day. Again, I have every supplement that is on their website because I love to be curious and try different things. And I have enjoyed every single one. Also, absolutely love the probiotic. All right, to try out To Be in Bloom, go to tobeinbloom.com and use code Jaclyn Steele 10 off for 10% off your order. Again, that is tobeinbloom.com and use code Jaclyn Steele 10 off for 10% off your order. I know you will absolutely love this supplement brand.
The next thing I want to talk about when it comes to getting grounded in your personal power is how you are structuring your life. And I want to begin with how you're structuring your day. I'm going to go through this fairly quickly because I outlined so much of this in my ebook, Didn't Break Me. But the first thing that I want to talk about is sleep. How are you going to feel powerful if you're exhausted? How are you going to move your body if you're exhausted? How are you going to eat if you are exhausted? How are you going to show up for other people in your life if you are exhausted? We need to take our sleep seriously. And I'm speaking to myself too. You know, right now with a baby, I wake up in the night several times. I also am a light sleeper in general. So I know I'm not getting enough sleep, and I'm also not prioritizing it. I'm not going to bed at the same time every night. I'm not getting up at the same time every day. I need to get better about this so that I can show up as my most powerful self. So sleep. Next thing is nourishment. How are you eating? What are you fueling your body with? How do you feel after you eat something that's not very good for you versus how you feel when you eat something that's amazing for you, that's life-giving, that's energy-giving? Again, like, I get it, guys. I totally get it. Sometimes we reach for things that are easy because life is busy. However, if we want to show up as our most powerful selves, we have to fuel our bodies like they are a fine car, because they are. We need the best, highest grade fuel. Next thing, when it comes to structuring your life to feel powerful, is movement. I've talked so much about movement in this podcast this year. We have to move our bodies. We have to take care of our vessels. It is really hard to feel powerful if we don't feel confident in our skin. It's not just about looking good for other people. It's about looking good for ourselves and feeling good in our own bodies. Also, just the very act of pushing past something that's uncomfortable in movement shows you how powerful you are. It creates resilience. It creates confidence. So movement, it's a huge part of feeling powerful. Another thing that I touched on is feeling grounded every day. Feeling grounded. It is so vitally important. So what's it going to take for you to feel grounded? Is it a walk around the block? Is it petting your dog for a minute? Is it 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 minutes of meditation? Is it journaling? Is it reading something? All of these things are so important and so important to do on the daily so that we can check in with ourselves and live life from a place of peace rather than anxiety or anger or whatever the feeling is. Getting grounded helps us return to loving thoughts, and loving thoughts make a really beautiful life. So, how are you getting grounded every day? Another thing, what are you feeding your mind? What kind of conversations are you having with people? What kind of podcasts are you listening to? What kind of television programs are you watching? What kind of books are you reading? All of these things matter. It's just like nourishing our bodies. We need to be nourishing our minds and empowering our minds. This goes a really, really long way. I've talked about frequency on this podcast over and over and over. If we want to be living a high frequency existence, we have to be surrounding ourselves with high frequency. So anything that's not high frequency, feel free to give it the boot. Last thing I want to talk about when it comes to structuring your life, I told you I was going to go through this quickly, is patience. None of us are perfect. We're never going to feel in our power 100% of the time. That's okay. Or maybe you will. I don't want to put any limits on you. But if you're not, you're feeling like me, like sometimes you are and sometimes you're not, patience, 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 grace. Keep returning to the mat, so to speak, and trying again, dusting yourself off. Growth generally isn't linear. It's circular, cyclical. We just keep getting better. So it's a better trajectory. But we often continue to do the things that we've done in the past. We just get a little better each time. So don't beat yourself up. It is what it is. But structure your life in a way that makes you feel powerful. So meditation, journaling, walks, whatever that looks like, sleep, feeding your body, movement, empowerment. Do all of those things and it will drastically change how you feel in your body, in your mind, spiritually. Next thing I want to talk about when it comes to getting grounded in your personal power is using your intuition. Our intuition is so wildly powerful and our thoughts are so wildly powerful. Our thoughts have the power to change our physical biology. I was listening to an Ed Milet podcast this morning where he interviewed Dr. Joe Dispenza, and at Dr. Joe Dispenza's conferences, he's actually scientifically tracking how people's biology is changing through meditation. How incredible is that? And through heart coherence, which is that is a podcast of its own. But heart coherence is when our breathing and our heartbeat is matching. I might be messing that up a little bit, but essentially when we're breathing in and out and our heart is on that same rate of breath, we have coherence. When we are breathing short breaths, we are out of coherence. When we are breathing deep breaths that are in line with our heartbeats or beats per minute, I forget exactly how it goes, making decisions is easier. Getting outside of our heads is easier. Life is better. So all that to say, breathe deeply and meditate. But what I wanted to talk about is using your intuition here. All that to say, you are an incredibly powerful human being, and your thoughts are incredibly powerful. So if you are feeling outside of your power, if you are feeling like you're in an in-between period right now, like me, where, gosh, I'm a new mom, but I don't know exactly what going back to work full time looks like while being a mom. I'm figuring it out right now. I'm in it right now. I'm in the trenches right now. Allowing our intuition to guide us is huge. So for example, this morning, as I was reading and having my coffee, I was like, what book do I need right now? And the first book that popped into my head was the book that I just read to you from, The Calling. So whether it's a book or you're being guided to pick up an oracle deck and pick a card, or reach out to somebody, or text an old friend, or listen to a specific podcast, or type in a word to a search engine and go down a rabbit hole, or look at the clock and you see this interesting order of numbers, and then you look up those numbers and what they mean. Follow your intuition and allow it to guide you. Your heart is so intelligent, and you are so intelligent. We just block it out so much. We think, this is just coming up too easily. It can't be that easy. But so often, guys, it is. My gosh, our hearts are so... I'm saying heart interchangeably with intuition, but our intuition is so spot on. So follow those crumbs, eat those crumbs, see where they lead you, and I know you will be amazed. Last thing, and I touched on this briefly, but the last thing I want to talk about in getting grounded in your personal power is, again, patience. Life is imperfect. We are imperfect. There are things out of our control. But there's also a lot that's within our control. Sometimes it just requires patience. Again, we're not always going to feel powerful. We're not always going to feel amazing. We're not always going to feel full of self-worth, but we can return to the mat at any point. We can start over again at any point. We can empower ourselves again at any point. We can decide, hey, I want to do something differently at any point, and then start taking actions toward that. Thank you for listening today. This episode, again, it was a tough one to get out. I think I recorded it 3 or 4 times trying to get the message out of my heart and into the airwaves. It was hard because I don't feel like I'm fully in my personal power right now. I have moments and days and even weeks where I so feel that way. But because my life has changed so drastically over the last few months, I'm just finding my equilibrium again. And I'm doing that out loud and processing out loud right now, trying to figure out how to come back into an equilibrium and really own my worth, and specifically owning what I can charge monetarily and what I can go out there and say, hey, this is the amount of money I want to make per month, and do it. I've had those months where I've done it, but I haven't done it consistently, especially not recently. So I'm ready to get back in the game. I'm ready to feel like I'm in my personal power, and I hope that you are too, because you deserve it. You deserve to be the biggest, boldest, most badass version of yourself, and I know that it's possible for you. I know it in my bones. So y'all, let's get grounded in our personal power. We do that through ownership, owning our lives, owning our decisions, owning our thoughts, through structuring our lives to feel powerful. This is not an afterthought. This is something we prepare for. This is something we prioritize. We get grounded in our personal power by following our intuition, and we get grounded in our personal power by being patient with ourselves and loving ourselves. I hope that wherever you are today, you know that you are loved and you are cherished and you are valued. Thank you so much for listening.